Okay, good morning. We're live. It is the April 25th. It is April 25th in Summit Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs. We have Damien in the witness chair to walk us through H 867 for the first time. This is our last new bill. I will say we don't have any more time for anything else. So thank you, Damien.
Okay, for the record, I'm Damon Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. So, yeah, I'm happy to be back on the alcohol bill this year with you.
There's a lot
you?
goes around, comes around, baby.
It's fun. Alcohol was always one of the fun parts of my portfolio.
And I have to say, to give credit where credit is due, this is the man who totally rewrote Title VII.
With Tucker's help.
With Tucker's help, but
Yeah,
Let's
let's
be
give
honest.
our credit
yeah.
Tucker too, who we've
I-
all seen. for a
I think
while.
alcohol is in excellent hands with Tucker.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to his return.
Oh, yes, we updated.
You don't want anything back.
So anyway, section 1 and section 2 relate to special venue serving permits. These are the permits that currently allow an art gallery, bookstore, public library, or museum to conduct an event and serve beer or wine at the event.
Right.
For this year, we're proposing to change, or the proposal is to change bookstore to retail establishment. So that it covers other retail establishments besides just bookstores.
Does art gallery not count as a retail establishment?
Art gallery could be, I mean, it can be a retail establishment and it can also just be a place that's showing art that's not for sale,
Okay,
depending. So we have a gallery here in town that shows installations that are not for sale.
okay.
It's like the whole room
Main
is turned
Street?
into an
On
installation.
Main Street,
Yes.
yeah, the one that has the red light at night.
Yeah, they have some really exciting work. But,
Does this retail establishment, does this include cannabis?
yes, I think it would, so.
Just pointing this out.
Yeah. They might fall under different special rules, but we
So,
might as well find out. That's a good question.
I think the question would be on that one would be for the Cannabis Control Board about what
Yeah.
their rules would allow them to.
We can
have
Right,
an event
right,
where they serve.
exactly. Yeah,
Because that's one of the things here, this is a general permission, but then
Mhm.
more specific rules related to different establishments could change what they can or can't do.
Will they also require different training? Cause this requires training.
Yes, this requires
training,
that
so-
you would have someone who is trained to serve alcohol.
so that would apply even if we find out it does apply to cannabis.
Yeah, no, but
if we
it's a
don't-
different,
Yeah,
and I don't know if we have training requirements with cannabis retail establishments. You know, because
Well-
people don't come in necessarily prepared.
they're quite
So,
regulated,
to-
yeah.
Anyway, it's a question.
be clear here with the special venue serving permits. Let's just,
Back up and slow down.
yep, exactly. Let's back up and slow down, because
We're in a fast mode,
Yep.
like we're in fifth gear, ready to shift into sixth.
I know, but sometimes it's not good to start the car in fifth gear. Just saying.
It's hard to.
Okay, Damien.
So, so the, any permit holder under the special venue serving permit is subject to the rules of the board regarding the service of alcoholic beverages, which means that any educational requirements that they have to have for a server, they need to go through those. So regardless of what kind of establishment it is.
Right.
So that I think is the important piece here, is even if cannabis establishments are selling retail to consume elsewhere, if they wanted to get one of these permits, they would have to ensure that they comply with all of the liquor control board rules. They would also have to ensure that it does not violate the terms of their license with the Cannabis Control Board. So to the extent the Cannabis Control Board might regulate this, and I don't know whether they do or not, they would also have to be clear on that. So
Okay.
with a regulated establishment like that, you really need to make sure all your ducks are in a row so you don't risk your license.
Yeah, got it.
So, but you want to hear more testimony? by all means. So that's all I can offer you. I don't know anything else about
That's
cannabis
fine.
sales rules. So section 2 is just amending that the section that governs the special venue serving permits. And it provides more clarity if you look on page 2 on lines 7 to 10. That a permit holder shall be authorized to serve but not sell alcoholic beverages for not more than 6 hours and solely for consumption on permitted premises. And that you can get only 12 permits in a calendar year.
Mhm.
So there was more clarity added around that. The one piece to keep in mind here is section 3 is a sunset, and so is section 4. These eliminate the retail establishment piece, and that is effective in 2026, I believe. July 1, 2026. So section 3 and 4 are sunset. So this is effectively a trial to see for the Liquor Control Board to do 2-year trial to see if granting this to retail establishments works and results in safe events. And then if they want to continue it, they'll need to come back in the next biennium and ask us to repeal the sunset.
But then bookstores lose the permanence they once had.
And the option at that point is they're gonna need to come back to either put bookstores back in,
Okay.
extend it to all retail establishments or a limited group of retail establishments.
Is 2 years, well, and these are questions for Charles, is 2 years long?
Yeah, I can't answer that.
And how are we measuring it, how are we trying?
That's a, yeah. Charles, here's you. That's fine. No, let's continue.
He's right
Charles, we
there.
can get, the sooner we finish the walkthrough, the sooner we can get you next year.
So section 5, the sampling event permits. What this is allowing is for someone holding a sampling event to purchase the beverages directly from a wholesale dealer now. Currently, it's a manufacturer or packager. So a wholesale dealer is essentially the person in the middle. So that allows you to get a little bit more variety as to where you get the beverages from. With section 6, we're amending the special events permits.
Sorry, I don't see where the change, I guess I'm just missing it in section 4, where is the
The top
change
of
other than
page
4?
Oh, so
Just the
section
opposite.
4 is deleting retail establishment.
Oh, okay,
on
sorry, I
line
thought-
nine.
Oh, yeah, that was still.
Sorry, section 5,
Section 5 is
Sampling
the
event
sampling,
permits.
okay,
and if
sorry.
you go to page 4, I think that's where the confusion.
Right, and
jumped
so I
in.
just was seeing. no
We've
change.
added wholesale dealer on lines 1 and 2. In section.
So this is adding wholesale dealers.
Yes, it's allowing you to purchase
So you
beverages
can,
from a wholesale dealer rather than having to go direct to a manufacturer.
so it enables a larger variety. Greater variety.
Greater variety and also options as to where you can get it from. So,
That's great.
yep. Section 6, the special events permits. This is.
So, sorry, could I just ask you a
Yes, ma'am.
question, which you would know the answer to, well, I mean, Charles would too. Do we lose any, does the state lose any tax in this? Is there an impact on our revenues?
So, Charles, you want to speak to that?
Why
We
don't
can
we
wait,
wait?
we can wait,
Yeah.
just an end.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think that the tax comes out the same way
Okay,
as you're
by
purchasing
volumes.
invoice
Okay.
volumes of it.
Okay, it's just a question.
So, and it's a gallonage tax, so I think you're gonna do the tax the same.
Okay.
But I'll let the department speak to whether they anticipate any changes in revenues because of that. Section 6, the special events permits, the only change here is on line 10 of page 4, and that's to increase the number of special events permits that a licensed manufacturer or rectifier can be issued from 10 to 20. So it's for the same physical location in the calendar year. I think that's pretty straightforward. Any questions?
No.
All right, And section 7 is essentially a technical change from report of the board to report of the department. So we get an annual report, which I'm sure everyone on the committee is familiar with from
Yeah,
the
indeed we
department. And so
Right
this
here.
is clarifying that the report is from the Department of Liquor and Lottery. And then it includes an account of the board's actions and any recommendations for legislation that the board deems advisable, but it's just clarifying that it's coming from the department, which reflects actual practice.
I have a big question. Does it include other things or is this a separate report on the board's actions that we get?
It's the aggregate actions in terms of like revenues gained, how much we make to the state.
Okay, so let's come back to this with Charles and the witness chair.
Well, and I just
Like one report total.
No, it's one report, but look at the date. It comes in the middle after crossover. So my only concern here, and I know we talked about it, I feel like we talked about this, the challenge we have for action in that year, unless we had a heads up. A report coming in March with recommendations is like really challenging.
I don't think we really offer recommendations under in that report. It's just what we did until July 1st last year. It's really just this is the thing.
Oh, this is just what happened.
This is what occurred.
Okay, so, okay, that's good.
And
Well, if you're alarmed by what's occurred, you have
Yes, exactly. But
point.
I would hope the commissioner and her fabulous staff would give us a heads up. But in earlier, in like November, December, to say, this is legislation we need to address.
Let's revisit this when Charles is in the witness chair to see if this is a superfluous report, because you do give us one in the beginning of the year.
No,
well, so
that-
this is changing the date from January
This
to
is
March now.
So we get no report from
Liquor and lottery. until
liquor and
March.
lottery until March.
That's my,
Yeah, we would give you everything all at once.
well, it's together.
Okay, okay, well, we'll talk more about it, okay.
Yeah, so the two changes here are the clarification on the department and the update of the date that it's due from January 10th
Okay.
to March 10th.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that with Charles. Okay.
Yeah.
Effective date.
Yeah, effective dates, sections 1 and 3, oh, no, this is
No, this
amending the effective dates for the liquor liability insurance requirement that you passed last year. I'm sorry, I thought we were ahead. I was
No,
like,
no,
that doesn't make sense. So that delays the liquor liability insurance requirement from July 1, 2024 to July 1, 2026. And this is the requirement to purchase insurance. So if we look at Act 17 from last year.
Okay.
Pull up
Can you
that
get,
language.
yeah, can you get it to Magali to print, because
Alright, well,
I still have a lot of concerns about
So-
their liability.
Yeah,
I'm
well, the
sending
question
it
is, why
to-
would we delay it? Don't
Well,
we-
also, it's getting quite expensive and hard to get.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Bad issue.
Expensive and hard to get, I remember this.
okay. So Magali, I just sent that to you.
Can't we come up with another liability insurance for them that isn't expensive and hard to get?
It's up to insurance companies, fortunately.
Well, I would think they would want to sell more insurance policies and make it easier and more straightforward. I mean,
They wanna sell more at the price that they have set, which is
So,
way too high.
yeah, the language in there provides that the department, in consultation with DFR, shall adopt rules governing minimum policy requirements, including coverage amounts for liquor liability insurance. And then prior to issuing first, third, and fourth class licenses, it will require the licensee or applicant to meet those insurance requirements that they've adopted. And so this
When
pushing the
Charles
effective
looked through.
date,
Yeah, so the effective date of having the requirement or the effective date of the requirement being in place?
that language prior to the issuance of a first, third, or fourth class license,
Uh-huh,
the department shall require each licensee to carry liability insurance that meets the minimum coverage requirements is now going to be effective July 1, 2026 instead of July 1, 2024 under the proposed language.
so it moves out the effective date
By
of
2 years.
requiring the
It
insurance.
delays that. minimum
Okay, I
insurance
thought they just
by 2
didn't
years.
like get their act together to deal with this. Okay, that's fine.
So it's delaying the requirement
Okay.
for those licensees to have the insurance in order to get a license
Mhm,
by 2 years.
okay.
So that's the key. I've sent Magali the document, so it
Great.
can be printed and then you can
Thanks.
look at the language. The section 9 creates so sections 9 and 10 relate to a new type of license called a retail master license.
Mhm.
Section 9 is the licensing fee for the retail master license. I believe the department testified that they would like to see the fee increase from what the House put in there. But I'll let Charles speak to the fee here for the
Mhm.
retail master license.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about that, because I think some folks raised that it's redundant on top of fees they're already paying.
We'll ask, because it's a new fee, right?
Yeah.
Right, it is a new fee.
Can we-
Currently it's $1,000
Yeah,
in the House Pass version. So the retail master license itself,
Tell us what.
just so you understand that,
Mm-hmm.
that is essentially a license that allows the holder of the master license to provide unified payroll and administrative services
Mhm.
to multiple licensed entities that are
Right.
under its control.
So if
Right,
they own
So-
a bunch of bars or restaurants that they.
Or-
One,
If you have, for example, a vineyard and a brewery
Mhm.
right,
under the same holding company, so they're separately licensed companies. And then there's one company that owns them as two of its brands. They can get a master license to provide the unified services.
so we can ask Charles what those would cost separately, it may be a deal. Maybe it's a deal.
Deal, I would like to see this at some point in the context of the other fees, that's the hard thing for me.
Right, well,
Like,
that's-
it's separated out from the rest of the list.
Charles' question.
And then section 11, this is language that was added as a floor amendment in the House. And
Oh, right.
so this relates to, it states that the intent of the General Assembly is to develop comprehensive data regarding the placement of beverage alcohol products in retail establishments. And then it requires by January 15th of next year, the department to report to the Health Committees on GovOps and Human Services, and this committee and your Committee on Health and Welfare regarding the results of the 2024 tobacco retail audit, which shall include detailed findings regarding the physical placement of beverage alcohol products within licensed retail establishment. And it shall take the form of presentation rather than another written report. And so this is essentially looking at, as I understand it, issues of RTDs and other beverages that look similar to non-alcoholic beverages,
Yep.
and whether they're being placed together in a location that you're be using to consumers or salespeople.
I actually thought this was going to be the online sales investigator. Did that land somewhere else?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Because that was an issue we discussed.
And
So
that
we
got-
look forward to hearing from Charles.
that died in SAT.
But this reflects, I know, a concern both for some House members, and it was definitely a concern of mine as, last year or the year before, whenever we allowed this. Okay.
So as far as effective dates go, the change to the sampling event permits takes effect on passage. That's the one that allows them to purchase from a wholesale dealer. Sections 3 and 4, which are the sunset of the change to the special venue serving permits, take effect July 1, 2026, and everything else is effective July 1 this year.
Okay.
I'll yield to Charles. Or are you out of time?
Questions. Well, no, we're not out of time. We're ahead because it's a shorter bill than I think we anticipated.
This is.
I know alcohol
And I'm
usually is so
hoping
big.
we can,
Thank you.
Move
Act
things out.
17.
that would be nice and give more time to H55.
Yeah, although I'm
Last year.
also scheduled
You're
upstairs
scheduled,
on
okay.
time too. So,
Okay,
yeah, although they have me, you might be able to move things up. They have me down for an hour, so although they ran well over time yesterday on that bill. That's the
Okay.
labor relations bill,
Oh,
so.
good.
Yes,
So we have you for S55, don't we?
We were just talking about that. Yeah.
No, I'm just,
Age 55.
Yeah, he's
yes,
not sure
later
if
this
he can
morning.
get in any earlier than we have him.
I'll come down as soon as I can.
That sounds great. I think we should be done with everything in between now and then. Quicker that it's scheduled for. Especially if we don't have anyone from the Taiwan delegation, if it's just Michael.
Chernick and me.
No, I know, but I said, if someone who
They're not
cares
coming
about
to
this
us.
relationship wants to.
I do.
Oh, I,
No, I know,
And,
I mean like a witness,
two of us.
a witness.
well,
We're witnesses.
I think if you asked, they would come up from Boston.
They're coming
They're coming
tomorrow.
tomorrow, so we asked, it's fine, it's fine.
So they're coming to hopefully hear the
Receive
resolution.
it, okay,
To
well then we'll
receive
do it pretty quickly.
But their request is really in the resolution itself,
Yes.
right?
If-
What I,
let's just say if we find ourselves with extra time, I can walk people through the housing amendment.
yes, and that would really be helpful.
Yeah. It's you,
I just got a copy, you should have gotten a
I
copy.
have, no, I had it down in finance.
Yeah,
oh,
because
that's fine.
We have possession of the bill, so.
right, and this would not be ready for finance or appropriations, but that's another topic.
That's
I,
how long we have the bill.
well, it does, but if we have built too long, it's all done.
It's not gonna be dead, it's an important bill, we're not killing any.
What's the holdup with SR 18?
No, there's no holdup at all. I think we'll be done sooner because we
Okay.
don't have a witness from the, what would we say, like the consulate or who's coming?
Yeah, from the,
That's part of the problem. They are not allowed to have a consulate.
Oh,
They
oh,
are
right,
allowed-
sorry. Yeah,
they're,
I just submitted something
If their
for
president
national
comes to this country,
Yeah,
I think it's still a she, cannot stay here more than 24 or 48 hours,
okay.
which
Uh-huh.
is all part of,
Okay.
when we recognize mainland China as
Mhm.
China, Taiwan cease to be anything. They can't be in the World Health Organization,
Mhm.
even though they have one of the best health systems in the world.
Mhm.
But and that's, they just want people,
Yeah,
they are an industrialized
right.
democracy. And
Yeah.
They
and they need some recognition, and this is a piece of our recognition and our gratitude, because we have a very strong working and economic relationship.
And you're
with them.
gonna tell us when they'll be here tomorrow. Is that what you wanted to
I
talk
am
about
sure.
with the agenda tomorrow?
No,
Oh, okay.
7:04, or whether we're doing it tomorrow or next week.
Okay, okay. So I think we can let you go now,
Okay.
probably somewhere else to be, or unless you're staying
I have
for
a
the.
few minutes, I'll stay for,
Okay,
to listen to Charles.
yeah, Charles, you heard, I think, all of the questions.
Yeah,
So let's start there. I'm gonna run.
we're having after.
Okay, hold on, I'm just trying to get us the name,
Okay, well,
cause it's Carl. Let's see what it's called, one of his phones. This thing's don't have his phone.
do you want to?
Here it is. It's the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office in Boston. Okay. Charles, hi. As you heard, we have several questions
great, yeah.
for you. So, good morning.
Morning, Senator, Dr. Charles Martin, Department of Liquor and Lottery, and joined by Skylar Janess, and Brandon King from our licensing enforcement divisions. Skylar and Brandon.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Skylar and Brandon will probably jump in for more nuanced questions about enforcement or licensing processes. So if you recall, I went through the bill quickly, a couple of weeks ago in this committee. At that time, we, reflected to the committee that we didn't have any concerns about the bill other than the last section that establishes a new, master license for purpose of simplifying payroll. I don't know that, we have direct concerns beyond the fee amount that's currently in the draft that you're looking at. That fee amount was kind of hastily input, and this would be a new licensing paradigm. I believe Skylar's already asked one of our vendors for a statement of work on what building out the infrastructure for this new license would cost. But there is an administrative concern there. I think our recommendation would be if it were to move forward to at least consider doubling that fee.
Okay, if you're jumping way ahead. If we could just, I mean, we can just go there, but I'd rather just kind of
Oh,
take it right through from the
Right.
beginning.
If it has a fee, it should go to finance, so you're
Yeah.
getting some,
Oh, we have feet in here.
yeah,
So
so it has some time
you missed the
to figure it out.
Yeah, you're gonna need time, you're right.
No, they have time to figure out what the fee should be.
Right. So, question for you. Beginning on page 1, where we had a question about retail establishment in cannabis, we're just gonna go straight to the CCB board. Any thoughts on that before we go to the other issues?
Skylar Bay, I don't understand the intersection of the cannabis control board departments and how that's.
Skylar, do you have a notion of how that might intersect or not worry about it and let the CCB address it? Sorry, I'm looking at you here.
We should talk to the CCB because.
Yeah.
Generally, people aren't allowed to consume cannabis on the premises of the retail establishment, so.
But they could drink wine and so that, Skylar, did you have any thoughts or should we just do CCB?
I do think that is a topic probably best addressed by the CCB.
Okay. All right, okay. And then the training would be something, okay. And then other questions before we get to the license, because that's, I think, the biggest conversation. I think everything else, the 12, I think we're in pretty good shape. We did have a question on the funds, on the sunset before we get to the other thing. Is 2 years long enough? Did you suggest the sunset? And how are we tracking it?
I think the sunset was generated by conversation of House GovOps. We, as Skylar's probably discussed this committee in the past, we track, place of last rank investigations. So, if, hypothetically, some bad actions were a result from this expanded permit type, in theory, we could capture that through those investigations and give the legislature sort of a metric that would say, since this change was made, these bad things have or have not.
Right.
And I think we
Senator
feel
Cummings.
2 years would be a decent snapshot.
Okay.
I believe, Madam Chair, you expressed the finance concern about dram shops and being able to get insurance.
Mhm.
That's,
And is this giving a private right of action against
Right,
anybody? So this would be the parents who provided alcohol to a teen party or no?
This
Well,
isn't
this is-
creating any new private right of action.
but I
Okay,
think it's a
Doesn't
good
change the
question
existing
on,
these are for public,
Okay.
these are for public consumption, places of public. This is not private.
and they have some kind of event insurance or something that the bar or the person serving alcohol would.
These are special events in retail establishments.
No, it's a good question, like how
Yeah.
is our.
okay.
Insurance
Yeah,
system
you
capture
can, you can
For-
get a
And we're
lot
gonna
of
get-
wine
there's
in the
an insurance-
bookstore.
There's an
Mhm.
insurance issue later.
You could get really high at the farmer's market. I mean, there's all
Yeah, they-
kinds of
Oh.
samples. It's not just one. If I
Mhm.
walk through and tasted every
Yeah,
person.
Gummy
in
bear that you
Montpelier, I
might-
could have pretty good
You might have to be
taste.
taken home.
I might.
I don't
have
think
to
we
go-
allow trying cannabis at farmers markets.
No, it's not cannabis, it's
Oh.
alcohol.
Oh, and
alcohol.
alcohol.
I mean, there's quite a few free tasting.
There are, right here at the State House, we
Yes.
have that.
Yes, we do.
So,
So I don't know, we could ask, I could field the question to Skylar if there's any liability insurance conditions for permitting there.
Mhm.
You would think, one would think your landlord or you would want liability insurance regardless, but, I guess I'd throw that to Skylar if there's a specific requirement there, as a condition for.
I mean,
Wouldn't that be with the sampling event permit and not with the special?
that I know is fairly prohibited for like a vendor at a festival. They have to carry very high liability insurance, like $1 million plus, so.
So just to be clear,
Mhm.
this doesn't change the underlying
Right.
dram shop right of action
Mhm.
laws. We do have a change going into effect on July 1, 2024, which you enacted last year,
Mhm.
which
We have.
Okay.
which updated the action for damages. And there's an action for unlawful sale. So sale to a minor, to a person after legal serving hours, there's also an action for negligent service.
Mhm.
So if you negligently furnished alcohol to someone who's apparently under the influence, or who would be reasonable to expect would be under the influence of alcohol as a result of the amount served. Um, and then there's a prudent person standard applied to that, so you know, it has to be reasonable for you to say, like, they should have reasonably known that letting that person drink
Right.
6 glasses of wine at the bookstore tasting.
Just might have had an effect.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's also something that's covered with any server training and so forth, that is how to recognize and cut people off. But it's, you know, the insurance issue is really, that's an issue of the insurance that the retailer carries.
Mhm.
Because they're not in the business of serving and selling alcohol,
Mhm.
which is just something that. So,
That's why we have these special permits.
not to sound dated here, but in my day it was bookstores. But that, you know, was like, we would talk about at an author site or something like that, you know.
Added those things together, art galleries.
We did, we're dating both of ourselves here. But you know, so I think that's the issue here is this isn't changing any of that.
Mhm.
So that action's still there. If the retailer is going to be having those events, their insurer may want to change their premium based on that. But that's really their own liability insurer there. They're not in the business of selling alcohol like a bar or a restaurant.
Okay.
Sorry to
And
jump
we'll have more of a conversation over the liquor liability insurance piece.
So we're, we were just answering
Section
the
5,
questions all the
yeah.
way through.
Mhm.
So I think we're now, of the big questions, the tax impact in section 5. Probably none because of the gallonage, yeah,
I think that's
Right.
Senator.
and then the March. So I think you answered from the sidebar of that tripper here, the March question.
I can clarify it somewhat, so, totally understand the concerns of the committee to want information to operate on as early as possible. We would be providing, and we do provide preliminary, financial numbers in that January report. There's some nuance there, but I don't know all of it, our finance department does. This was an attempt to give you final numbers all at once.
Right, so
So.
you don't get some stuff, as I recall from your testimony earlier, you don't get some stuff until after January.
Yes, Senator. So that was the intent behind this. You know, it's not obviously the department. It's not the end of the world if you don't feel that, you know, you'd rather receive this preliminary in January.
No, I just hate getting reports that we get lost, you know, I hate reports that we don't need or look at because it adds more time to what you do. I imagine around March, are you reporting this to other entities besides the legislature?
The member might need it, yeah. I can't speak to every place finance sends that report and sends this information in March. But I know, like, you know, we're gonna update financial projections wherever we offer them this.
Okay, I mean, it's right at the end, we have the tobacco retail audit on January 15th, so really anything actionable for us, we are gonna do in January. And when a report pops up that I know we don't generally look at around March 10th, you know, I just wonder if it is adding value at all.
I just would tack on to that and say that if we could, you know, maybe, I don't know if it needs to be in legislation, but if we just make an informal request or maybe a letter from the chair requesting that the actionable recommendations be made by the beginning of December or something, that would be helpful because I understand you made a case for you don't get a lot of stuff until January and February to do the report. So that makes sense. We want a complete report. And my guess is a lot of your partners want to see how you've done over the year, that it's not, you know, the NCSL, as they're looking at the states about these issues, a lot of people would want to see this report. But I think actionable,
Yeah,
lots of actionable
the
stuff
only
would be
thing you don't have in January is the receipts derived. Everything else is valuable in January. I would just change it back to January 15th and delete receipts derived. That's the information that, I mean, we wanna know the proceeds of the lottery, we wanna know, you know, whatever you want to share fiscally.
How about a preliminary report? How about if we just simply divide it in two and have,
Is this your one report to us, like your annual report?
Yes, it is.
I'd rather, like, if it's about the receipts for alcohol or whatever,
those
That's
are
not
important to
something-
know.
but that, we can just get that informally and get. I mean, it was helpful to hear about the sports betting proceeds in January. It was helpful to hear about where you're at with different studies in January. Granted, I don't think we got to you till early February, but, I don't know, like, I feel like we're moving it to March just for the receipt piece. Is that accurate?
That sounds about correct, Senator. I mean, I don't know that we'd want to be delivering information 2 separate times. If it's more simple, we can keep the date in place. And, you know, we don't necessarily have to make this, it's not, if it pleases the committee, we could just keep the January date.
Well,
and send it.
Or I would offer a bifurcated one, which is a preliminary, anything that needs a legislative action to have a recommendation by the 1st of December, because we actually.
I just don't want to. I just,
But
I
that's
think
not
that's
a
more
report,
work
that
for
could
you
just
all.
be an email.
If I could, I would, if the commissioner in the department has recommendation for the legislature, we would absolutely deliver those prior to January and separate from this report.
Yeah.
So just as a note, I mean,
But I just feel like we're basing the whole change of the date off of one piece that isn't really material to us.
But it's not material to us, but it might be material to the rest of the liquor and lottery world. And we're just one entity that reads that report.
But that no one else cares as much about recommendation for legislation. I wanna know the practical effects of the application of the lottery early.
Hmm.
You know, I wanna know about board's actions early. I just don't, I think we're driving this all around the receipts derived. Because that number comes in at a different time. Is that accurate?
that sounds correct.
Okay, so I want the report of January and I think we should just delete receipts derived.
Another option,
Yeah.
would be to just delete receipts derived from that and then create another subsection that says, or the department shall submit,
I guess I'm just
having
not
the
asking,
receipts derived.
I'm not asking for 2 reports. I think, I don't, has anyone looked at the receipts derived in March? Or whenever? Have you looked at that?
No,
No.
I haven't this
Let's
year, but
do
it's,
it.
I agree, I haven't looked at it this year.
Well, the public might.
But I think there's a bigger population that looks at a final report on Vermont, the entire state.
But they can publish that. Do you publish that without bringing it to us?
Yes, in places, Senator, yeah, and there's other people that are, yes.
I like taking requirements away because as the chair of a committee, I don't like when we ask for something that we don't look at. It does exist to the public in other places,
And
but
the
other
receipts are
places.
accounted for in the appropriations
Right.
as well.
Right,
I mean, that is a place in this building where they care a lot about the money that's
I
derived.
was-
and finance, and we see that.
I don't,
Okay, here's a compromise. Just write preliminary receipts derived, no other report. That is the actual hard and fast numbers are important to others for budgeting purposes, and they'll get those. And make it January 15th.
do you have that, Dave?
Yeah.
And you wanna keep it as, even though the department is issuing a report, I imagine you talked about this. You still want it to account the board's actions and legislation the board deems advisable. We never talked to the board,
Well, that's why it's,
but it doesn't say department in the second sentence.
I think that's sort of just an overarching theme, the whole report, there's a board letter in the beginning of the report.
Ostensibly, the board is in charge of the department,
Okay,
so
so it's,
but when you say board's actions,
should be
does that
board and
encompass the
department.
department's actions?
There was a regulatory change for sure, so
Okay.
we'd be enforcing
Okay.
that regulatory.
So we'll leave it
I'm
alone.
not sure how we can work
Okay, and then the next question was 26, and you already about the liquor liability, this goes to and Keisha's,
I'm still concerned about this.
yeah, this
I still have
insurance issue.
questions.
Top of page 5.
This, I just want to talk about the broader issue. What have you learned to date? What was the impact of our changes last year? Because I understand that people are still paying higher prices than they previously had. That it didn't have to do with our exact law.
So that's correct. That's what we've been hearing, Senator, from insurers and some licensees. I'll add that I think you probably have written testimony from BTIR or Amy Spear.
Oh, she's here
Or
too.
she's on the screen back here. She can speak to the actual
Great.
broader climate, but our information is that it's still fairly difficult to find an affordable policy for most licenses.
So do you have responsibility for trying to help do anything about that?
We don't, that's not a conditional licensure unless there's been some past violations, in which case it can become one.
So
No,
you're
we don't
not
help
liquor
people.
for liquor liability insurance?
We don't know.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Okay,
So it's not any.
are they, but generally, do they all feel like they have to have it?
Most on-site places of service do have liquor liability insurance. There's some extenuating circumstance in most
This
cases.
is what they're liable for. I would think it would be crazy.
But you are charged with this study.
Yes, there are some businesses in Vermont that don't carry it, but it's some on-site service location that don't carry it.
Mhm.
So
I'm asking because I want someone to be trying to help them find affordable policies or like do some, I don't know if it's DFR.
So I don't want to speak for DFR,
Yeah.
but as far as understanding the broader insurance climate and things that can be done to impact it, that would certainly be more DFR than us, even in the context of licensees.
Are they part of this study?
yeah, I was gonna say, is DFR and the chamber working with you to solve this problem?
We are not working to solve this problem. We're just trying to avoid a circumstance where we're compelling people to buy a product that they cannot find.
Right, Senator Cummings.
Yeah, I mean, the insurance markets vary. They get hard, they get soft. It's based on, and they have to have their rates proved on experience. So if they're getting claims that cost money, then the insurance costs. more.
Right, that's why we heard about like you can't do punk or heavy metal shows with the same insurance rate
Right,
because
because the
they have experience.
experience,
Yeah,
that's why some groups, and maybe we could here, set up a captain-wide,
Yeah.
insurance, but, or do reinsurance
Mhm.
to protect them over a certain amount.
So is that an idea for DLL to consider for its cut?
I would look at, I was talking to DFR.
Yeah, and we have Amy, so let's wait until we get to Amy. So your
It's an
role
interesting idea.
is to stay out of it until you feel the issue is better resolved, so people can meet the standard if you should have it.
That's correct, Senator.
Okay.
And it is something that landlords will require as a condition of having that business in their space. So
Right.
that
Yes, because they get
and that
food
is,
too.
we do look to make sure you have it.
Right.
You have a lot of skin in the game here, so I would hope you'd be helping work with your franchisees.
We're certainly as helpful as we can be in the context of our
Yeah.
responsibilities, but we're not helping people shop for insurance or anything.
Oh, right, and
Right.
the retail the liquor outlets aren't having this problem.
They're not.
It's late at bars.
It's on-site consumption,
Yeah.
probably.
Right.
Kind of
Okay.
generalized.
Okay, we'll talk to Amy about that.
So you just said on-site consumption, what is the difference between what you were just talking about? A bar,
A liquor
a
store.
bar.
I was talking about a
Oh,
liquor store.
versus a liquor store. No,
Yeah.
liquor store doesn't have
Can't
consumption.
consume-
Right.
Consuming at the liquor store, you're going somewhere else.
Right, and it's not necessarily the restaurants that serve alcohol, it's specifically the late night, like
Bars.
we're a bar, we're open until midnight or 2.
Maybe you can go into that. I think everybody's having some trouble.
Everyone's having trouble,
But
okay.
probably more of those late night clubs would probably be the, kind of
Okay.
use that'd be like.
Because
summer.
restaurants.
Standard we used to ask was, do you sell food with your alcohol, or
Right,
alcohol with your food?
yeah, the 50% cabaret rule.
Doing a liquor license.
Yeah,
And the places that serve food with their alcohol, the ones that are the most risky, as their primary selling alcohol.
right, and they're selling liquor, and so anyone like most restaurants aren't necessarily doing cocktails, they're doing like wine and beer. So it's anyone selling liquor for consumption on site is happening.
I think everyone has had the broader, even your places that are doing some pretty, what would be perceived to be
Tame.
low risk
Yeah.
events are,
Okay.
but if you read, in that provision, if this were to not take effect, this amendment is delayed by 2 years. TFR and DLL would develop a schedule that determined risk. So like your afternoon B&B place on a Sunday that does mimosas would have a lower threshold for having appropriate insurance than your late night, after hours club that does heavy metal as you.
Right.
But the business community doesn't want that yet until they can
Until they're sure
assess the
that
costs.
all the licensees can actually
Meet that.
Afford
meet
it,
that,
right.
and afford.
Well, and just get the insurance. I
Yes.
mean, it is still hard to just get it right now. Okay.
So our next thing is it turns out they haven't asked, so this new fee, we're moving to section 9. The retail master license, that's a new fee that was put in by the House. You are not happy with it?
Yeah, so Senator, it's sort of a self-inflicted wound. The House was trying to expedite that bill. We had some vacancies with people being on the road for training and whatnot. So I got a question and had about 10 minutes to act on it to come up with a number. So we used the number that mirrored our resort license. Just to put something in there so the bill can move. And I emphasized that we were not final on that number. We didn't feel particularly comfortable with it. So this is, us coming back to say that we think it should.
I still need to understand the concept because what I heard early in the session is that this is layered on top of other licenses people have to get. And so I'm not understanding what this accomplishes.
So I'm gonna have Skylar speak to why this is different than other licenses and some of
Okay.
our concerns around the infrastructure that we would need to stand this up.
Okay.
But before Skylar speaks, your request is, I think you were going to say you would want to see this at 2,000.
At least that we,
Please.
Skylar can go into this. I think we asked our vendor that helps us build this licensing infrastructure for a statement of work. So we actually don't know what it might cost. We're just confident it's gonna cost more than what's in place right now. I know that's terribly unhelpful, but that's kind of a.
Well, we need to set it at something if we're gonna keep it, so. Skylar, I think he's gonna help us. Okay, take it away.
Yes, happy to. So I think I'll start with historically, Title VII has established a licensing paradigm where one license is issued to one corporate entity, and that's kind of pervasive throughout all of Title VII statutes when it defines who a licensee is. And our systems and infrastructure have been set up around the issuance of one license to one business entity. The master retail license as proposed is really a license issued, not one license issued to one business entity, but one license that is issued to a multitude of at least more than one business entities under a parent holding company. Now, let me be clear, holding companies are a really common business scheme, corporate structure that we see and we have licensed in Vermont now, except that what this proposes is not really a holding company because the company doesn't hold the licenses. They are simply one unified parent company that wants to employ the staff and manage a unified payroll system, but the subsidiary companies would hold the licenses. And that becomes problematic, and the department acknowledges problems around the workforce shortage in the state and these companies wanting to share employees across multiple licenses. The regulations do state that all employees of a licensee must be on payroll and have correct withholdings from their payroll deductions, such as workers' comp, and obviously all of the Department of Labor wage withholdings. So what this bill proposes to do is to say we'll issue one license to a master company, and underneath that company will be a number of different business entities, which all have to be related back to this license so that they can share employees. The costs that we didn't fully understand at the time are directly involved to upgrading our infrastructure to do these associations between multiple business entities and one license. So we don't have a statement of work on what that would cost for us to change our licensing software and system to accommodate this sort of paradigm. But we do believe that the fee structure as presented right now is likely not enough to cover that initial cost.
I think we need to hear from someone who would be impacted by this fee. I'm not quite understanding what costs go into the additional burden and what value you're saying you need this.
We are not saying.
No,
we-
Okay.
They don't need it.
So
It's a
someone
request.
wants it, who wants it?
Chair Marcotte requested this on behalf of a constituent. I don't want to speak for
Okay.
businesses in his district, but I know that that's sort of horrible background.
Okay.
We didn't oppose it. We did not endorse it either.
Okay.
It was just added at the pleasure of council.
Pleasure.
It seemed like a national restaurant chain. Or there may be national bar chains, I don't know. That they have more than one outlet in Vermont where they serve alcohol. With their food or maybe eat food with their alcohol. And they're less than 20 miles apart. They're having trouble getting bartenders or wait staff. And so they would like to be able to move employees between different and
More easily, Senator. So as Skylar, I think, mentioned, there are ways to do this now. I think the constituent of Marcotte and Representative Marcotte would look for a more simplified avenue in their assessment. So I think that's why this occurred. But I do think there are mechanisms and constructs that allow people to do that.
is the person that wants the more simplified, know that we're probably gonna charge them between $2,000-3,000 to do it.
I don't even know if that's enough. I don't know what amount we're talking about. I think we need to, Senator Clarkson, I think he's gonna say, we need to hear like what the right figure is.
Yeah, it strikes me that maybe this is premature and that what this section should be is asking the department to come back to us with a proposal for a retail master license for next year. And with with really understanding what it entails, we should charge. And because we're gonna have to come back next year and review the license fee anyway, so we might as well do it right. And it sounds like that we need.
That sounds very sensible.
Okay. Yeah, I also worry that if we do this and then it becomes important and someone doesn't get it, like, I don't know that information.
And I understand sort of the idea, and it might be, it sounds like it's worth exploring. So I would boldly propose that we replace this sections 9 and 10 with request for the department to come back to us with a proposal for a master license fee, a retail master license fee, and an appropriate fee
I got a process too.
and a process.
Yeah, I mean, that's Natalie had emailed Damien this, but if she could copy you, Charles, so that you can work on this, so that having.
I'm not know that I'm ready to assume that a retail master license is worth what it might
Oh.
take. I mean, I want the,
Yes,
I
you want the
don't
number.
want to start with the assumption that this is a good.
Well,
thing
that's
to
what
do.
I'm
Yeah.
asking them to
Okay, I
come
just
back to
wanted-
us.
That wasn't the wording.
Oh, well, it has been proposed and I mean, I think
Let's
it's
let
worth
them work on
discussion.
the wording, but I hear you, but if Charles, you can hear
Just
that
want
like
a
a
neutral
neutral,
assessment
like,
of-
what is this? Are we solving the problem? What is the problem?
So identifying the problem, because the problem is that holding company with multiple entities.
We don't know. So I think Amy might wanna talk about this too when she speaks, so let's wait for that, but for now,
Why
I
don't you and
think.
Damien identify it?
Yeah.
You've heard of,
You got it.
and I think we just premature to be doing.
Okay, tobacco retail audit.
So the tobacco retail audit, Senator, is something that we do every few years anyway. I believe it flows through the Department of Health from SAMHSA. Our hook to go into those businesses is their status as tobacco retailer.
Mm-hmm.
While we're in there, we look at a number of things, including the placement of alcoholic beverages within the store. As you might recall, there were some efforts in the House to mandate where alcoholic beverages were physically placed. There's an amendment proposed that ultimately failed. It had some language that would be probably kind of difficult to enforce because it was somewhat subjective.
Okay,
So we would be coming back to the legislature and giving you a full kind of readout based on our tobacco retail audit hook to get into all of these retailers who also happen to be beverage alcohol retailers. to let you know kind of what that landscape looks like. I think the last time we did this study, it showed that about 10% of retailers commingle in the sense that they might share a cooler between alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages. So this would give you a fresh update, and the legislature can make a determination on whether or not they think it's a safe landscape or not.
Okay.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I mean. I'm not sure what the, if you've got a non-alcoholic beer and it's in the same cooler with an alcoholic beer. I'd rather be able to grab that beer there than have to go wandering around the store wondering,
Right,
where would you put it with Coke?
right. I think the seltzers are starting to look the same as
I
I
think
think that's
they
where,
are.
you know,
But
I think a
there's
lot
a
of them
lot
are
of
to drink.
recovering alcoholics who drink non-alcoholic beer.
right,
And
yeah.
I
correct.
wanna make it easy for them.
Yeah,
That's, I think in part.
so you
what
heard
this-
that, like products with like products.
Yeah.
We wanna know eventually if there is a specific problem we can solve, not just making stores rearrange themselves.
No, and I think this is actually, I support this study, and I think that we need to be clear on where things are.
I think I think OCE is also gonna look at, on if there's any differences in compliance, because we do annual compliance
Mhm.
tests.
Yeah.
At locations that commingle, so we can answer the question of whether or not it impacts
Yeah.
your ability to take booze from a store if you're a minor.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
there's
a big
always,
issue.
I'll add, there's always a point of sale, so there should always be a card check, and that retail professional should always be, assessing whether or not the products are
Is there any particular problem this is focused on solving?
That's the question that we're gonna allow you all to answer. I don't know that,
I wonder. if-
I don't know that we have.
Interesting to know that we're trying to solve a problem before we spend the time and money to create
Well,
a study.
So we don't have necessarily any evidence to suggest there's a problem right now, Senator, but I think our intent is to gather
get
more
data
data.
and be able to say there's,
And you already do the retail audit.
We
so
already do
this
this.
is-
this is not gonna be that much.
Mostly
I just don't know that we were compelled in the past to report any of it to this body.
Yeah.
So this would help us do that. And
But it might put to bed some of the concerns that a lot of members have. So I think that putting it to bed is better than it continuing forever.
But there's no evidence that if the beer is stored next to the bubble gum, that makes any difference.
No,
That's-
Senator, I think Sam's has actually said that verbatim. There might be some factors that are all, to get commingling, on there. That could contribute to a scenario where you'd have like a less safe environment, but Sam said, I don't recall their exact quote, but it was something along the lines of they don't have evidence that proximity and where you put your inventory is a one catch-all result in bad actions, right?
And they
Well,
probably wanna limit
knowing
retail
what's
theft.
there and where it is, what's the object of the study?
I think just to answer and respond to the concerns of health and operations members who are
Yeah,
and some of their colleagues from outside the committee who were worried that this was a problem. So I
I
don't, we can't definitively say it is or is not, but I don't think.
will say this, I think the House has started doing this and I want someone to talk to them about it. I feel like Ruth, it's like a pet peeve. But when they say the report shall take the form of a presentation to each of the committees, they're deciding for us how we're gonna receive this information. And that, I don't know why they started including that, especially, you're not even the messenger. But I don't want that in there. I really don't like that they keep doing that.
Well, I think in all fairness, that it is trying to reduce the number of written reports that that people have to do. And
There's
they're
a written
responding to
report.
requests.
There is a written report and then
Oh, and I see, yes, you're right, it's double. But it
they
does say
they
that the
cannot
report,
decide how other committees get information.
I'm
okay, but it is like,
concerned about the intensity of some members of the other bodies
Yes,
trying to impact the thought
Yeah.
process and priorities of Senate
right,
committees. We are two separate and independent
Yes.
bodies.
right,
yeah.
And
okay.
It's not a you thing, it's a
I'll
legislative.
add
how about
that.
just a
We're happy to deliver any work.
I'm just, we're striking three.
Any committee would
If you have to deliver a report to the
Let's
House.
just strike,
Yeah,
let's,
seriously.
let's
Oh, you
just
did
strike
just
three.
say that. I know, right?
yeah,
The committee,
That would
who
be-
asked for this?
that would be nice.
Okay, let's just strike
okay.
three and.
Yeah.
Or just say that
I'm just gonna run up the
House
flagpole
committee.
to them. This is like, it's not even a constitutional thing to do.
Can I
Yeah.
just question on the report?
Yeah.
Does the report include vapes?
I think the broader data might have a point there, but I would ask Skylar and Brandon on what the
Just since you brought up bubblegum.
flavored products aspect of that audit came.
Pepper.
Skylar, do you wanna answer?
Yes, happy to. As part of our SINAR compliance data collection, we do collect data on sale of vape products to minors. So we do look at e-cigarettes, tobacco products, and traditional tobacco products, and we assess retailers' compliance rates when refusing sales to minors.
Thank you, so that would include the placement, right? They're behind something.
No, this is,
You can't put a cute picture of a unicorn with unicorn poop vapes, which I'm told are the top seller, out in the main aisle.
Okay,
anything.
You have to ask.
All
okay.
tobacco products are required to be non-self-service. They do have to be behind a counter and not accessible directly by the public.
Thank you.
We're just ensuring that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy.
And then effective dates, straightforward.
I had another question, just because I looked at the section and I thought it was something else. Is the online sales investigator anywhere else now that F18
Oh, yeah.
failed to go anywhere?
I'm not aware of where that might be right now.
We should put that.
Okay,
I
can you tell Damien that we want to put an H55?
Yeah, we want to beef up our, because Skylar, I think you really
And will you tell him?
got us, I don't know what the right word is, but you certainly piqued our interest in the investigations that you've been doing on the online sales. I think we want to really support you in that.
Okay,
I would say
but-
for the. Sorry, Sandra, I'll wait.
The budgets are finalized, so the
H55
question is the money in the
The
budget?
question is, are we going to vote out H55 with an 8% tobacco increase just on vapes, which raises $1 million and we can find money there?
Oh, you could.
Oh.
I was hoping, I thought you were discussing, but
We are already at
Taxes.
90-some.
92%, so this would make it an even 100.
So I would say
I
for the,
thought you said that was a tax that you would be willing to entertain.
We can
That's a
talk
tax
about it.
I can usually do with public support.
You
But
have ours.
I don't wanna raise taxes for the sake of raising taxes. I do have a kind of ethical issue with raising money off of what we have defined as an illness and addiction.
I have often opposed tobacco taxes. This is just on vapes and it goes directly to cancers and health issues. I have not liked that we use it for other things beyond the impact that smoking has. But that's the story.
Mostly.
if I could.
Less than 5%
Sandra,
goes to cessation.
Just want to say for the record that this position not being in the budget, we totally support the intent behind it, but we're not supportive of the new position. Skylar does have some information on what we intend to do regardless of any new position. If you're interested in hearing that,
Sure.
he can go over that now.
We'll have to fall back on that if our proposal is.
Sure. We, just like the rest of the state of Vermont, as well as this committee, is concerned about youth access to e-cigarettes and vaping products online. We have had successful enforcement actions in partnership with the Attorney General's Office Consumer Protection Division in the past. We look to continue that partnership and protecting the most vulnerable, to include youths and their access to these products, which are harmful, addictive, and easily accessible over the internet. To that end, it is a resource-intensive project, but some innovations we found as of late in our exploring may alleviate some of those challenges. So we are partnering with the Division of Artificial Intelligence within ADS for a pilot program to monitor and surveil the internet, looking for retailers who are going to sell tobacco products into the state of Vermont. And that would allow us to engage in some more specific compliance with those sites and reduce the amount of time it takes for human investigators to surveil the internet looking for those sites.
So
Wow.
we do data
There's
privacy.
lots of good uses of AI.
Yeah, there are good uses of AI and certainly enforcement is one of them. It's also interesting in line with our data privacy work.
Well, that's
This
what I'm
is-
just wondering, how,
Yeah.
if I've got a right to privacy on the internet,
Not if you're doing something
now the
illegal.
state of Vermont is going to know, well, no,
Not
I
if you're doing
might,
something
I,
illegal.
No, I guess it's not legal to buy it, so
No,
it's
it's
not
not.
age.
And so I
But you
thank
still,
AI.
you are using AI. I mean, we don't want traffic cameras, so you know if I run a red light.
I love a traffic camera.
AI is you're using publicly available information.
We're searching for like the front page of a business.
Yeah.
And Skylar can.
Yeah.
Or
Yes, it's essentially just a more in-depth reoccurring Google search. So it'll continually be searching e-commerce websites that are offering tobacco products for sale into the state of Vermont. And then we wouldn't certainly take any sort of enforcement action simply on reporting their willingness to do so. We would then engage in an actual compliance check and attempt to have those products sent into the state. And should they violate state law by sending those products into the state of Vermont, then we would look to our partnership with the Attorney General's office to pursue civil penalties in those instances.
Thank you very much. It'll be really helpful to hear the results.
Yeah.
And in lieu of adding an online investigator this year, maybe we see what the results of that work and the innovations in those capacities, Skylar, and ask you to come back to us with another recommendation on whether we would actually need some additional resource in terms of people power to comply, to ensuring compliance.
We can talk about it more with
Yeah.
H 55 if someone can stick around. We're already gonna have a conversation about tobacco tax.
Yeah, no. And I support that, I mean, but
Yeah, we wouldn't
if
have to take
can't-
it from 500 cancer.
It's good to know there's a
Yeah.
good innovative fallback.
And there's,
Then you still have to follow up. I mean, that's.
well, and there's probably
Yeah.
fines at the end.
Oh,
So,
if they fail their compliance checks, then
right, so that,
it's something the attorney general tells us.
can that be used as a revenue source for the enforcement?
I believe that goes to the general fund,
That's now.
those fines.
so that's a question for Skylar, I would guess, which is if an online company is actually delivering to a minor, what is the compliance requirement for UPS or Amazon or whoever? I mean, what is the consequence for that?
Well,
Age.
yeah, it is a good question. There is no sort of outlined liability or requirements for common carriers in the delivery of tobacco products in the state because that is always against the law. That is always prohibited under our delivery sales ban. So historically, we have prosecuted those cases under the Attorney General's office, under the Consumer Protection Division, whether it's to a minor or whether it's to an adult. So we don't have any specific mechanisms to hold common carriers liable under this. We generally address the root cause, which is the retailer who's engaging in those unlawful practices in the state.
Well,
Do you have, can I ask those?
Yeah, let me show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I assume just because I've heard complaints that people can't get wine mailed to them, that we are doing a good job of enforcement.
We
on
didn't change wine,
yes, we get one.
But
we just didn't change.
well,
Christmas presents.
well, right, but there's a requirement that it be signed off on. by
Yes, it's a
secretary.
pain, you have to be there. and
Right,
sign.
So what I'm saying, so we do regulate somehow
Most states do the
whoever
sign
is
off, I
delivering.
think.
Yes.
Right, but could something similar be done for vapes?
They
Just so
are
I'm-
much small, I mean.
No, I know.
This committee, I was on it, we had local wineries that wanted to be able to ship, I go to a festival and I like your wine. I'm going home to Montpelier, I don't wanna have to be
No, I-
driving to Bradford to get wine. So we allowed it, we then were told under federal trade, uniform trade, that if we allowed it in state, we had to allow, and I was in California and at a winery, and I carried home 2 bottles of wine, and I got an earful on Vermont. Wouldn't let them ship that wine to me.
Okay, but now.
So now we have to
Yeah.
do it, but they do that, but a
Right,
wine or alcohol is heavy, it has to come, these are black market. It's much easier to hide a
Oh.
vape than a bottle of wine. you'd have to probably open packages to check on what's
It's
inside.
something
I
to
don't
pursue,
know.
we're not gonna put it in the bill
Yeah.
on April
No, no, no,
25th.
but I think it's something we should consider because I doubt, I mean. I think we could have a similar process for vapes.
We
Or
have
at
to
least
move on,
we should
that's something
consider.
you can
You want-
explore.
No, I'm not.
You guys have to deal with
Tyler may have an answer to that.
And I can talk to him
We,
offline.
we're not making a change this year on that front.
It's illegal to
Um,
ship it. It's legal to ship wine.
We already have a
Therefore,
postal
we
service
have,
problem.
unless we wanna make it legal to ship vapes, and I don't think we do, then
Oh.
how can we regulate?
For adults, we might, well, yeah, but we'll
This
talk.
is fun
We'll talk.
You
for the
cannot ship
cafeteria.
back products.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Brandon, is there anything you wanted to add before we move on to Amy?
No, I was just gonna say the same thing. Under certain circumstances with licensure, shipping of alcohol is legal into the state, either from out of state or from in-state. It is currently illegal to ship any tobacco into the state, and that's what we're talking about here.
Okay,
We did have the discussion about, I go to the casino in New York, and my granddaughter, my grandmother likes strawberry flavored
Yeah.
cigarettes. Is it illegal for me to bring her back a whatever it is, of cigarettes?
Carton.
A carton, okay. Can I bring my grandmother back a carton of cigarettes? I think in the end, the answer was no, but it's that strictly regulated.
thank you. These always elicit other fun conversations, but we should go back to the bill.
Canada's been here from
That's CCB, so Amy has been really patient, our last witness. You can stay there, you can move, it's up to you. Okay, hi Amy.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the record. My name is Amy Spear. I'm the Vice President of Tourism with the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, and I'm also representing Vermont Independent Restaurants, which is a working partner of the Vermont Chamber. So we appreciate the opportunity to weigh on the liquor liability insurance issue in particular, which at the foundation is ensuring that there is availability of liquor liability insurance for licensees. Just to put a foundation for where we were last year to where we are now. So last year, the legislature took swift action to address the tipping point we were facing with liquor liability insurance, which was coming to a head, particularly with businesses that rent their space, music venues, and high alcohol to food ratios. I do also want to point out that liquor liability insurance is not one size fits all, as with most insurances, as really all insurances. There's a number of factors that are considered when they're considering your premium rates or really the availability. So germane to the industry, looking at food to alcohol ratio, music venue, even type of music. I know we referenced type of music earlier in this conversation. But even amenities such as fireplaces on site can trigger higher premiums for liquor liability or even diminish availability. So the changes were made with two goals so that the industry could obtain liquor liability insurance. Then we also wanted to make sure that public safety guardrails were still in place. So what was the result of last year's changes, amendments to our dram shop laws triggered a re-rating of Vermont. We moved from a 10, tied for worst in the nation, to a 5. So that re-rating of a 5 brought our risk level in line with our neighboring states. So that was a positive accomplishment out of last year's changes. And so while the changes did have a positive impact, the market has yet to adjust, and that's for a couple of reasons. So compounding the need for market adjustment, there's currently a hardening in the insurance market. Also at play with the hardening of the market is that the reinsurance marketplace also plays a significant role in determining the insurance premiums and can also impact availability. So there's a lot of nuances at place with what businesses are facing right now. So in the marketplace, the insurers are being more selective about whom they insure and the terms under which they're providing coverage. So this is leading to increased premiums, which was mentioned earlier, reduced coverage options, and stricter underwriting. So particularly with stricter underwriting, there's been a more rigorous assessment of risk when issuing policies. So that means that some businesses, even with the re-rating to a 5, might not be able to find coverage as easily as before or not at all. So what we're seeing in the current marketplace, based on information from licensees and an independent agent, is that while some have had insurance become available, it has gotten better for some, but worse for others. So for example, we're still looking at those businesses where alcohol sales are over 60% of gross revenue. Some of them, and many of them, are really seeing 100%, at least 100% increase in their premiums year over year, which is an exponential increase for any business to absorb. So really allowing time for the market to adjust is an important step for the implementation of this mandatory liquor liability insurance for licensees. But also just to put out there for, food for thought, I guess I would say is, there is a chance, for example, that because we are dealing with a hardening insurance market right now, and there's, we're on the horizon and hopefully in 2 years or in 2026 for mandatory liquor liability insurance, that we might need some regulatory assistance or guidance from DFR just to ensure if we are requiring insurance from licensees that it is in fact available, because there's a lot of things that are at play, whether it's your ISO rating, the hardening market, et cetera. I will stop there because I hopefully answered some questions.
Amy, thank you. This is very helpful. I'm just curious, a hardening of the market, it sounds like arteries, hardening of the artery. What does that mean? That the insurance market is settling in on what
It
is it?
generally means that prices are going up, perhaps in a softer market, if there's more claims and more risk coming up, then they raise their rates because the risk is going up.
So the hardening of the market means that the rates are
prices
settling in at a higher rate.
They're being stricter in how they assess you.
Which
They're
is,
being more selective in who they will
Right.
Yeah.
insure and at what price.
So-
It's a risk.
okay, so it's a risk dependent thing.
Yes.
So Amy, did I hear you correctly saying that if for some businesses, over 60% of their gross revenues are related, are alcohol sales, that they have seen insurance jump over 100%? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's a lot. And the other question I had for you is, what are you saying that's better for some and more expensive for others? Is the better for some the ones that Charles was describing earlier that serve less alcohol, like mimosas at a Sunday brunch, as opposed to? Is it
Yeah, so
that kind of itemized assessment that leads to better for some?
Sort of. So there's two things, I guess, to point out there. One thing that was removed last year was the landlord and the chain of liability, because there were landlords that were requiring very high thresholds of insurance, and some were not able to obtain that in the marketplace. So removing the landlord from the chain of liability in our dram shop laws was very helpful. And again, yes, going down to those, it will always be easier, regardless of a hard market or not, if you have a lower alcohol to food ratio, to obtain a more favorable premium. Things that are, I guess, just to circle back briefly on the hardening market. So when we're looking at, we'll call the 3 things that are being impacted right now in the hard market, increased premiums, the insurers are raising rates to cover potential losses and restore profitability. So that's a look back over several years of insurance markets trying to adjust to inflation and other economic factors. But we are seeing, the rate of inflation was like 3.4% last year, and insurance premium increases are far outpacing that. We're seeing reduced coverage options. So it might be fewer policies or higher deductibles, or, trying to reduce their risk exposure. And then again, going back to that stricter underwriting where even amenities like a fireplace can cause a spike in your premium.
Thanks, that's helpful. So this is all why we're extending this until 26, right? This is all to underscore why we need to extend this to 26.
Yes.
But I guess my last question is, what percent of establishments that are affected by this are actually covered right now, because I would think those who aren't covered are really exposed. So
Yeah,
I'm a
you-
little concerned about rating and exposure.
Yeah, so the vast majority of licensees and really all licensees that are within the VTIR and VT chamber realm that I've spoken with want to have liquor liability insurance. It's not a prudent business practice to serve alcohol and not have liquor liability insurance. So what they're doing is they're just paying that rate increase, and so they have to absorb that as a cost of doing business. So really, what we're dealing with here is if if someone can't get liquor liability insurance, it's not available. But for most businesses, they're just paying that significant increase. I spoke to a business a couple of months ago who renewed their policy in the fall, and they were facing, I think it was a $20,000 increase. That was for a high risk venue, but it's a significant increase that they're absorbing year over year for that business cost. So they would rather have it and pay more than not have insurance.
It's like homeowners insurance. It's based on risk. When you have a mortgage, the bank requires that you carry
How do I forget it?
to drive, and your automobile insurance is based on the risk of your having an accident. In Vermont, I believe we are one of the lowest in the country. But I got hit 3 times in Boston, just stopped at red lights. People just don't stop.
Driving.
I paid a lot more for auto insurance in Massachusetts than I did in Vermont, but it's the risk.
Right.
Nobody's run into me here.
We pay one.
A deer might run into you.
A deer might run into me, but I'm in this,
One
but
Well, that does.
it's based on the risk that you are going to get sued by somebody who is hurt by one of your patrons.
I get it.
I don't know that requiring them to carry it. I don't know. Once you own your house, you're taking a risk of somebody breaking their neck, slipping on your icy driveway, or your house catching fire and burning down. Depending on, or you're going to do a cost benefit of what's the risk that my house is as opposed to the cost of insurance.
Right.
Yeah, but other people's lives are at
I
stake
mean,
here.
it sounds like the chamber and DFR are working as best they can outside of any legislative work we're able to do on this.
That's great.
I hope you feel you can come back to us, as you saw last year, if there's an issue, because we know our late night spots are important for the vibrancy of our downtowns and village centers. And so, we want to be helpful. I mean, Senator Cummings knows I say this often, other liability insurance is very hard to get and getting more expensive. Lloyd's of London just dropped a lot of their book in Vermont. There's the insurance market is becoming just a really scary landscape. Period.
I'm just trying to understand what exactly we're talking about, because section 2, we're extending that to 2026, but section
Right.
2 is the special venue serving permits.
That's a different.
Oh, it's a different section 2?
Yeah, I think so.
So are we postponing a requirement for insurance? Is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's on
and
page 5,
it's,
top of page 5, section 8.
Mhm.
It's section 8.
It's
okay, so it's section 2 of section 8
yeah.
that's not here.
It's section
Right.
2 of section, up to
So-
8 in our bill, but it's
Mhm.
section, yes.
Right, so the words are not on the page. So does this action,
Here it is, section 2 of what we passed about liquor liability insurance.
From act, another
from
act.
last year?
Yes.
And yeah, I'm sorry.
Nope, I
but
wanted to.
does extending it more increase any liability to the state?
I don't think it should change anything for our.
For us?
The risk is if somebody is injured, they can do a lawsuit against the, establishment. Well, the staff,
Right.
they'd have, you know, there wouldn't be any automatic damages, well, the insurance company would probably contest it anyway.
But did the state used to require this, and now we're not requiring now? So this is a new requirement that we're postponing.
Mhm.
Based on, it's hard to require someone to get something that they can't.
Well,
Right.
It's not
and but
available.
can't means,
Or it having a very difficult.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so expensive that,
No, I understand.
So, may I just ask one more question, maybe? Amy, I know in the past, the chamber has pooled I don't know what the right is, benefit, so that it makes it less expensive for members.
associations, insurance associations.
Thank you. You've had insurance associations with the chamber. I know local chambers have that, and I would
Well,
assume you had
It
it
was health insurance.
for health insurance. So the question I have for you, is this something that currently you could do an association pool and make it an advantage to being a chamber member by having a pooled liquor liability insurance that could be perhaps lower if you negotiate it? I mean, is that an offering that might be an advantage to chamber members?
It's certainly something we're exploring to see the viability of it. You know, we don't necessarily, we're not looking to disrupt the insurance marketplace by having a new offering. So if the marketplace corrects, then that would be great to continue to send folks to our independent insurance agents that are operating in the state. But yeah, creating an insurance pool is certainly an option that would be available. And so we're looking really for any tools in the tool belt to help alleviate this issue for our licensees. But it's obviously a very complicated issue for us to explore, to set something up like this with a whole other set of statutes for us to navigate to ensure that we're in compliance. But at the core of it too, Vermont's just a very small state. We have 1,500 restaurants, not all of those are licensees, and so it's just a small pool, and unfortunately the markets are not in our favor. So that is a great point, Senator Clarkson.
Yeah.
I think we have what we need to do on this bill, we need to talk, I think, to, my notes say we need to get CCB in on the retail thing.
And Magali emailed them already.
Right, and we need language on the master retail license recommendation.
We emailed that to,
Okay,
we're operating on all cylinders here because
Magali,
we
you're
have
amazing.
2 weeks, so.
And, I don't think we need to do anything on this except the 26th date as the extension. Okay, so the only two actionable things I think we need to do are those two.
Yeah, I have my study little issue and she shared that with.
Oh, right, the vacancy.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right, the third thing.
Great, thank you.